The greatest thing from Quebec since Celine Dion and GSP.
A pair of siblings.
A couple of stellar young men.
Two brothers.
These two young men.
Two siblings.
The hard-hitting pair represent Canada.
Welcome back to my laboratory where safety is number one priority. Welcome to Thinkin Bros. My name is Chris.
And I'm Alex.
We're your favorite corner store philosophers trying to figure out life one conundrum at a time. Today we're going to be talking about William James's chapter, five of his Principles of Psychology book, and it's on the automaton theory. Now, I wish we had chosen it by interest, but we actually chose it by length, I think.
No, I chose it by interest.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think it was the shortest chapter, coincidentally. And the other thing we're going to be talking about is Gettier cases.
The Gettier problem.
The Gettier problem. So, I don't have any structure. I didn't bring my laptop, so you want to get us started?
Sure thing. So are we starting with James?
We can.
So, this was in the, off the top of my head, late 1800s. And the automaton theory about human psychology and just humans in general is the theory that, I guess it's physicality. Everything is reducible to the processes that go on physically, chemically in the body. And if we knew in enough detail absolutely everything that's going on, we could predict what everyone would do. But I guess that's not exactly the implication of the automaton theory. Yeah, it's also about dualism versus monism a little bit. So it gets to, is there a mind, right? The automaton theory claims that there is no mind, that it's sort of like steam coming off a train. Did you, you don't have your laptop, right? You didn't highlight any quotes because he made so many, like...
I know. I was pressed for time at the beginning. I started taking notes, copy pasting quotes, but obviously, yeah, it's William James. I would have liked to have them, but didn't have time.
The quotes are very nice. Yeah, so basically the automaton theory is, endorsed by scientists because science wants to explain everything, all the cause and effect relationships, and applies this to the body and to the mind. And so, according to the automaton theory, the only thing that exists is the body, and us having a consciousness, us having a mind is just an illusion, and scientifically it's sort of wrong to think that the mind can be a separate thing and have an effect that's on something that's physical. And and so he mentions Descartes. Descartes famously wanted to endorse dualism and said that the point of interaction was the pineal gland, which now seems funny. But James actually endorses some version of dualism. He's opposed to the automaton theory. And this didn't give me the impression that we got in our class when we talked about James, where he said that in his personal life he would accept free will, but for science he had to surrender. This seems like he's not surrendering to that, and he's saying that we do have free will.
But I think it's also about our phenomenology. It's about the way we decide things. But to be fair, if you wanted to conceive of it in the way that it's conceived, like in the first part where he denies the arguments he presents, and he says that essentially the brain in an automaton theory could be seen as a domino effect for everything. And for example, you feeling joyful after having been given a gift could simply be due to the fact that the neurons of joy are linked to the neurons of receiving gifts in a way that the activation of the first would physically activate the second.
Mm-hmm.
And then your mind, or I guess what Descartes would call the pineal gland, or whatever the locus of consciousness is, the part that you think with, can be a spectator to that. And within that, you can have the illusion of free will. But It was all
Descartes would say that the pineal gland like has its consciousness, so it has free will, so it makes decisions. So it's not like just a cause and effect relationship.
okay.
strictly.
Yeah, I was focusing on this. So and he specifically mentions that it doesn't matter how logical the link between the things is. It's in its determinism. It kind of makes me a human automaton, just because even if the physical link between joy and receiving gifts is very logical to your spectator mind, that doesn't mean you chose it or there was any volition or free will in it.
Yeah, and especially later on, it gets a lot about free will. But I think his main counter to the automaton theory. Do you remember the Hume's main thesis? How he removed the dogmatic veil in front of Kant's eyes?
No.
So I didn't look it up either, but I was hoping you would remember. But maybe this will tell you something. I think Hume was the one that said that we can't infer causality in anything, right? So that the sun rises this morning and has every other morning doesn't ensure that it will rise tomorrow. And us inferring causality is just looking at statistical probability and inferring causality. That's what we're doing. We're not observing something that will for sure happen. And so James invokes Hume and says that it will be arbitrary to accept the causation, the physical causation, let's say in the mind, but then say that the causation of a consciousness, of a free will to, affect decisions and affect the body, to say that's unintelligible, right? He said it would be like ignoring that Hume and Kant existed, something like that. So his point is, scientists will say that it's unintelligible to think that the mind can affect the body, even though philosophically, we're not really sure how all other causations work. I think that's the argument, at least.
Yeah, but I think it's all a defense against the common sense view. And I mean, he mentions it at the end, right?
Well, the scientist view. He's saying the common sense view should win. The common sense view that we control our actions.
Yeah, but I'm saying like all of these representations and all of this, even Hume's point, to a certain extent, you want to treat it like you would treat the words of a Buddhist master. But then when I say that, it's like,
Wait, what do you mean by that?
There's
what
also
does that mean?
I'm gonna get to it, but there's also a deeper truth behind the words of a Buddhist master. And again, there's also a deeper truth behind Hume's words, but there's the kind of this level too where you're just like, okay, but can we just
Okay, but get
to
level 3.
yeah, no, but I definitely agree that on a Buddhist level, getting to level 3 is very useful. I'm not sure with Hume's it is, because I do believe we live in a world of cause and effect, and people who study the link between the cause and effect, I wrote a blog about this a few weeks ago, are the people who are the most proficient, right? The more you get into in depth, or even, I mean, if you think about deliberate practice, right? People like Mozart clicked on so many notes so many times that he now knew, he had a mental representation in his brain of if his finger moved like this, such sound would come out. And sure, you could say to a certain extent there's no guarantee that the sun will come up tomorrow, but we have 500 years probably of, at the very least, of meteorological data confirming that it will.
At least 500 years.
I mean, look, I don't know how far back it goes. I'm sure there was like the blackout, and there were like some sun eclipses where people just freaked out, and then in the history books it's like
Froke out.
Yeah, froke out, and in the history books it's like the second coming of hell or whatever. Is that a thing? So, but yeah, I think it's all a defense against the common sense view, and ultimately, when you think about this on a Humean level, you really want to, I don't know, if you were in front of you, you'd slap at me. You'd say, "Well, that was predetermined. There was no causality there. Like, my conscious mind didn't cause this," and you would wiggle yourself out of it. That's all I'm saying. Like, I guess it's on a certain level too. I'm just not sure there is a level 3 here. And William James agrees in the end, in the sense that the common sense view is the fact that we do have volition.
Okay, I guess I would say, I don't know. There's many ways level 3 could go, and one way level 3 could go is just like, let's not deny any of it. And I guess that's the way that James wants to go, because what he's saying is, look, you're not denying causality in physical phenomenon. Why are you denying causality in the mental realm? And so the solution is like to go with common sense and to not deny anything.
Yeah, they're pretty unbreakable links, obviously. But what's interesting to me is that Descartes didn't notice them, I guess. But it's also, there's a lot of things about Descartes where, when I watched the episode on the meditations from Very Bad Wizards, Tamler said that, he starts with all this ambitious view and this radical doubt thing, and destroys every single building in the city of philosophy at that time, and wants to rebuild them from the foundation. And then ultimately he just concludes the same thing that was thought at the time. He just ends up with the same conclusion. All his radical doubt kind of magically goes away through his rational argument with a bunch of flaws, and he just ends up with the same thing. So the thing about, so William James brings up this link about how, well, is it really a coincidence that bad things for you are linked with pain, and good things for your body are linked with pleasure? So that that's a conscious state directly correlated with a physical aspect of you. And this is why, like, it doesn't take advancement of neuroscience to notice these links, right? And to not, I don't know, pin it all on the pineal gland that does something that was never explained by Descartes, right? It just seems like, if it seems like something I'd write, in the sense that, you have an idea, you think it's a good one, you start writing, you realize, oh, there's a problem. That's fine, I'll just keep writing. And then you finish writing, and you're like, well, I'm not gonna look back at it. I don't know if you know how I write, but this is exactly how I write. It's like, I want to never look back at it. It was perfect in its own way.
To be honest, I feel like that's the way most people must write. Like, there's no way that philosophers write these papers and they're like, yes, I'm right. Like, this is the truth of the universe.
True. And also, and that can be proven by the simple fact that, there are some undergraduates reading it and spotting like fatal flaws at 3 spots, So
yeah, but you're talking about like general links. The specific link that's the problem between the mind and the body is,
how, right? How does neuron activation lead to you thinking?
No, the problem is, does consciousness, like the automaton theory would like to say that brain cells fire, whatever, you, like, I have a consciousness right now, I'm moving my hands in the way I am, I'm saying the words I am, but my consciousness of that is just superficial. Like, everything is going to happen how it's going to happen anyway. I have the impression that I can control it, but this is all, I forget the word, what's the, the one where it's dualism, but it's a train and then there's smoke, and the smoke is the mind.
No idea.
No. Okay. Well, you see what I'm saying? And like the direction up from the body to the mind works, right? The body gives the mind like all its data, all I'm moving, whatever. I have this consciousness, but the other direction down doesn't work. So my mind doesn't affect my body. That's the automaton theory.
Okay.
Yeah, and then obviously there's the hard problem of how the heck does the body even create the consciousness? Like, what's that link? But mainly it's about causality, right?
Aren't modern yoga studies like disproving that as it goes?
What?
Like mindfulness meditation. I don't know. You're affecting your body by thinking. Or what's the thing about, like, I know Hobbes would have something to say about that, but what's the thing about deciding and then doing? Like, that's a top-down control thing, no?
Yeah,
Like,
well,
you
I
decide
mean,
to do,
for,
and then you move your body.
for the mindfulness thing, it could be said that it's just, look,
You were gonna be more relaxed after that time anyway. I don't know. I'm not sure.
yeah. The argument is just like, look, you're sitting still and there's not a lot of cognitive processes going on.
No.
Therefore, your mind focuses or whatever. And probably it was predetermined that you were going to do that. And that's the point for thinking and then making a decision and then acting. That's the point. The point is we have the illusion of making a decision, but we don't make a decision. It's just like our body was going to do that anyway.
Okay. Well, how exactly does that happen that we know in advance? Do we know what the body's going to do and then we have the delusion of making the decision? Or
Yeah, something like that.
like a premonition?
Have you ever had a dream where he
Yes.
you know how when you have a dream and the end of your dream sort of blends with the beginning of your day, and in your dream, like, there's an alarm sound, but then you wake up and you realize the alarm is on the outside, and like your mind just instantly rationalized or like created a world around that sound and made up a reason for that sound to exist within your dream, which wasn't the main reason outside. I think like it like the world is just constructed and your mind can make up free will. Like, I can see that happening.
Okay, but then wouldn't you have to kind of be omniscient for you to like make plans a year ahead and then decide what you're gonna do on every day? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's just not very like interesting to me. It's not very revelatory. It doesn't it feel to you to have the same kind of practical value as the simulation theory?
I see. Yeah. I think our conclusion, like you and me, our conclusion on this is ultimately maybe not. Who cares? Something like that.
Yeah, in a way. Or like, okay, now that you've given it to me, what do you want me to do with it? That's all.
Right. Like, I don't have free will. I'm not deciding. So what?
Yeah, so I can slap you and just say, that's the universe.
I guess. But I mean, that's all of philosophy. It all pretty much doesn't matter.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I feel like scientists hold this view. Like, scientists can't think that there's free will, but you sort of have to forego free will if you're going to like follow, especially when you're studying psychology and the mind. You have to think that there's causality, and where that gets you ultimately is like, it's all just brain firing. The stimulus affects your brain in this way, and then you have the illusion of like hesitating or whatever, but it was going to happen that way anyway.
Yeah, there's a modern neuroscientific view of how the brain functions, and I forgot what it's a counter argument to, but it's written by Neil Levy. It was Sartre's existentialist view, so it kind of disproves that. But I'm not gonna say how, but I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say his
Just
view on the brain.
trust it disproves it.
No, I'm gonna say his view on the brain though. Essentially, he says that evolution doesn't optimize. It simply filters out and it stacks on top of. So our brain is composed of multiple kind of layers and mechanisms developed in different eras for different purposes. So you know how they have the lizard brain and whatever. Is that a thing? Like the three brains, whatever.
Sure.
But he says it's a complex thing of irrational mechanisms as much as we'd like to think we're rational. They're just stacked on top of each other. And they operate on different levels of information as well. Some conscious to you, well, to your conscious mind, and some subconscious to you. So that's how priming works, for example. And they all have their processes in the same way that you would imagine the conscious part of your brain to process information. There's an input and there's an output. Whatever happens in between is kind of mysterious. But he says that decision making actually happens when information is fed to you, probably, a good part of it conscious and a good part of it unconscious. Then every single part of the brain takes in all the relevant aspects of the information it's interested in. For example, you would only focus on something very specific. So if you're playing baseball, you would look at the guy's arm and and the ball that's coming to you. But other parts of your brain would already be like programming, coordinating every finger of your hand to catch the ball in your hand, right? So all of these processes happen, and then they get their output, and then they re-upload it in a way to kind of a central mechanism, and then the brain takes the average of all of those outputs and then re-inputs them into every part of the brain, and then that process goes on for multiple cycles, and then a decision is made. So as much as you'd like to think that the conscious part of your brain is a CEO of some sort, where you're making all decisions, well, first of all, it's kind of easily disprovable that the rational part of your brain doesn't make all the decisions. And also, sometimes I think this argument that William James is exploring comes from a certain intuition of determinism, where you have certain impulses and you already feel like it's decided for you that you're going to do them, right? Have you ever had that where you're just like I know 100% I have to go to the gym tonight, but I think I'm just gonna, 3 hours ahead, you already know you're just gonna not do it.
Okay, but this determinism that you're describing, that's the Neil Levy view that you just described, and James is not thinking that. James is thinking something else, right?
Well, I said exploring just in the sense that William James gives both sides.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just saying also that if you were to defend an automaton theory, I think some of the intuition would come from those situations where you already know that your brain isn't going to cooperate, and all that really means when we say that is that you're not going to get magically the motivation when the time does come. You can still, I heard a kind of not a self-help guru, but something of the sort, say, give a speech. Some guy was struggling with quitting addiction, and he was giving a speech and talking about how to quit cigarettes. And at the end, he was like, but ultimately, what I always tell people is that you should remember that your hands are connected to your brain. Right? You can just put down the cigarette. So, yeah. I do have the intuition that, the conscious part of the brain is the CEO. But anyway, it feels right. And what Neil Levy is saying, the more I've thought about it, because he also gives examples where only some parts of your brain are active, and being authentic, this is what the paper was about. So it was about Sartre's existentialism and bad faith, if you've ever heard that term. And bad faith kind of being the opposite of authenticity. And Neil Levy says that authenticity comes from acting on all of your values, in alignment with the values of who you are. And part of that is never acting when only some parts of your brain are active. So, for example, if you have to make very quick decisions, or if you're drunk, for example,
If you're a drunk?
If you're a drunk, for example. You're drunk.
When
You're a drunk. So
when you have to make quick decisions, so like in baseball, someone throws me the ball and I just wait.
and you're inauthentic. If
I
you
just
do
wait.
react,
I don't swing.
Exactly.
I never
if you,
swing.
If you do react, you're inauthentic. No, but what it really means is that just as processing thoughts, determining your values of who you are happens in this kind of averaging out effect of outputs and inputs of multiple brain parts, a lot of which you are unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can't just, right now I ask you and you give me a full rundown of what
Of
your
all my brain
values are.
states right now and all the conflict that's going on in my head.
Yeah, but also like all of your values and all of the decisions that when you make them and go through them, you will know that you will feel like you have acted authentically. You can't tell me that right now, but in fact, there is a world where through every decisions you have taken the authentic path. And essentially the way to reconcile that is to stop seeing, like having the ego that the conscious part of the brain is what's running the train kind of, and it's just one of the wagons. And it has as much importance as the other ones. But
I don't understand how, if ultimately the brain decides for you, you can be authentic or inauthentic.
yeah, well, the way I know it's a weaker point. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying we're an automaton. The decisions are made by the brain, filtering, blah, 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 blah. But also, be authentic.
Yeah, the way he says that is like think, determine the best decision, but know that it will ultimately come down to more than just your decision. And the way to view the use of your decision is that your decision, your rational decision about the best thing for you, for example, will be uploaded to this general averaging out of the outputs of everything. And you're still going to affect the next cycle of decision making. So, for example, right now, you don't feel it in your bones that you're the greatest fighter alive. But if for the next 365 days, you just woke up and you read some quote about you being the greatest fighter alive, you might essentially convince your subconscious of it. And in a year, I talk to you and, you would probably just subconsciously walk in a ring like you are the greatest fighter alive,
Okay,
Something
so
like that.
It's not the automaton theory. It's like we have some free will and we have... I feel like it's still just the common sense view. It's like with integrated neuroscience, but it's the common sense view.
Yeah, but it's also
It's
drop
the common
your
sense
ego.
Yeah, it's the common sense view
view.
post Freud, something like that.
Yeah, he mentions Freud, but I just wanted to offer the kind of a recent neuroscientist view because there's a lot of relevance to what William James is saying.
Yeah, those were the like what I said earlier was why he doesn't like the automaton theory, but he says that there are a lot of positive arguments for free will and against the automaton theory. And so he sort of describes the role of the brain as, if it has consciousness, it's there to help the rest of the organs that don't have consciousness and to organize everything. And all of these feel like a little bit shaky arguments that you could say like, yeah, sure, like it makes sense that we would have free will with these arguments, but it doesn't mean like, yes, we have free will, this proves it. But still, I think they're good arguments. He says you could imagine this process of helping the body and keeping everything regulated and keeping the body running in two extremes, right? You would have one extreme where everything is like a reflex, right? So you get stimuli and you have an output that's strict, responsive, and you get it every time. And so it's reliable, and if your body knows the right rules, it will survive. But the problem is that's too rigid. And if the environment changes, the body won't be able to adapt. And then the other extreme is where everything is by chance, right? Like you get a lot of inputs and your decisions ultimately are made. He says it better, but
he always does it.
Yeah, he always says it better.
It doesn't matter what we say.
He says it like this, like you get some inputs from stimuli, and then it's it's as if the decision was a drop of water landing on top of a mountain and going either west or east, right? It's just like in the rain, it goes east sometimes, west sometimes. What decided it, we don't really know. Actually, you could argue that that's like Newtonianly physically provable where the raindrop is going to fall, but I think the spirit of it, that it's random. You don't know where the raindrop is going to fall. But then the problem is, like, that would just be random decisions and you would for sure not make the right decision. What he says is the consciousness loads the dice. So if the brain that acts a bit randomly is you throw dice and the best decision, let's say, is all three die landing on 6, right? If the brain is that random output thing, it just throws the die and there's a very low probability that it'll land on 6s. And landing on 6s on all 3 die is the adaptive solution, right? And consciousness allows us to load the die so that it's weighed toward the 6s. So we won't maybe make the right decisions every time, but we can influence our body. So it's pretty much...
It's what I just said, and it's the modern neuroscience perspective. William James is incredible. But that's the thing, just to illustrate further, the premises that you're going to load up in your brain when making a rational decision are going to be fed to you from your subconscious, right? From these other layers.
Mm-hmm.
The way you're going to view, the way you're going to weigh each premise. This can be proven by, the racial priming stuff, right? They prime you for, I don't know, a certain word, and then you weigh the arguments of two papers that were independently rated as having the same strength of arguments,
right,
differently or whatever. I don't know why I say racially, but
well, it could be any unconscious bias thing. Yeah. And he says consciousness, in his view, would only be active when the nerve processes are hesitant. So that, let's say it's a 50-50, right? Okay. Your body really doesn't know, and your consciousness can say, let's go this way. But it could also easily be viewed as, things go on and you influence every cycle, let's say, and then you have like a small influence over everything.
Yeah. I guess it's like if I walked in a room and you rapidly threw a shirt at me, I'd probably catch it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you kind of feinted it to show me that you're going to throw it, and I thought about the fact that it would be funnier for me to let it hit me, I could then decide to not catch it. But if you do it too quick, I would catch it, right?
Right, so consciousness is only at play when, like, you hesitate, or consciousness is only at play when we feel like consciousness is at play. You see what I'm saying? Like, in the reflex, you're not like, I am going to catch this shirt. You're just doing it. But
then there's, I guess, what would you see the spinal cord as? Because some of these nerve impulses aren't even getting really to the brain.
Yeah, so just consciousness is not active then. It's just a reflex.
I get it, but like in the substrata of the brain, in the Neil Levy view, would the spinal cord just be another one of those parts as much as... Well, in the sense that it has a time and place where it and it alone makes the decisions. So it could be one of those layers, and the specific conditions in which it makes those decisions is when something happens way too fast.
I guess, but I would... The higher processes, like in the prefrontal cortex, and I guess everything in the brain, these cycles, I feel like the spinal cord is not participating in that. The spinal cord is in the present. It's like reacting to stimuli right now.
Fair enough. Yeah, we could exclude it, but it has a part in this. I mean, would you call it decision making?
Right.
Like taking away your hand from the stove. So yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. One last thing, I guess. This is a more. I don't know. It felt a bit religious, even. Mm-hmm. So he says, like, imagine a bike. If you take a part of the bike is a mechanical mechanism. Nice. So eloquent.
True.
So like it's made of parts. It's an automaton. It'll do what it was made to do, right? It was built to go in a straight line when you pedal the pedals or whatever. If you deviate the wheel a little bit and it goes left, the bike will start going left. That's what it'll start doing. One part of it was changed, and there's no spirit in the bike where the bike wants to go forward in a straight line. It just does what it was made to do, right? And if you deviate the wheel, you deviate one part, the bike will start going left, and that's its function now. Like, you change the part, that's now its function. And he makes the argument that the brain is not the same, right? If it were an automaton, you change one part, and it's not like the brain has a function where it'll, if it were an automaton, that it will go back to doing adaptive things. It would just have a new function. Now that the one part is broken, it'll just act in whatever way it acts. But that's not what happens. The brain has, well, there's this concept called degeneracy. And that's the concept that many brain parts can do the same function, right? So that if like one part of my occipital lobe is damaged or whatever, some other parts can take over for that role. And we see that happening. Maybe not specifically for the occipital lobe, but whatever. Like, other parts take over.
You named one of the only parts of the brain. I mean, I guess, yeah, if you do lose vision, you can touch, and then it activates some neurons in the eye, right? I mean,
yeah, but like motor action, if like something was responsible for moving your finger and that's damaged, I don't know exactly the details.
I know what you're saying.
But whatever. Yeah. It feels as though the mind and the brain has a spirit where it wants to go back to adaptive functioning, and even when some parts are damaged, it does not act like a machine. It doesn't act like it's unbiased, right?
Yeah.
It wants to go back to its function. Yeah. And that's not what you would expect from an automaton.
Yeah, but I'm thinking computational psychology, and that's a concept called rigidity to damage. And essentially you can simulate that in an algorithm by just making the kind of the vector in which it encodes information extremely large. Well, you make it have more elements.
Okay.
I don't know if it's gonna help you at all, but essentially what you do is in a thing called random permutation. So for example, you would encode word order in a sentence by simply having a vector, for example, 1 0 minus 1 0 0 1 0, for example, right? So the larger you make it, the more elements it has, right? So imagine it has 1,024 of those 1 1 0 0. And whenever you get a word to encode for its order in a sentence, so I don't know, the dog bit the mailman, you would take, if the target word is dog, mailman would be the dog bit the mailman, like 3 away, right? So you would move everything in that vector 3
over.
Yeah, over. I wanted to say up or down, but I'm not gonna go through like if it's before the word or after the target word. And the larger that vector is, the more rigid it is to damage. So if you're encoding 5-word sentences, you don't really like need, for performance, you don't need a vector that is above like 5 or 10 elements, because you could have the same information by just moving it the maximum amount of times away from the word. Yeah. But the bigger you make that vector, the more computationally costly it will be, but it will also be rigid to damage, because if you remove 30% of that vector, you still have kind of the information of how the other numbers moved, and you have a lot of it. Okay, so it's just more and more through learning how the brain actually works and how AI can imitate it. I'm realizing that this automaton theory could all be true. It's on such a complex level that we can't, even fathom what the physical causality of my reaction would be, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, choosing who you want to marry.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the exact neuronal physical
Events.
Causality chain from the moment you meet someone that happened, right? And you're like, well, no, it's true love, it's consciousness, it's rational choice, it's free will. But then you probably could give an account. It's just we're not there yet, right?
Yeah, and it seems like that's a scientific intuition. And I feel like it's also my intuition. I have an intuition that there's something magical going on. I want there to be something magical going on. But what I know for sure is that, as you said, I think it's way too complex to like understand it within my lifetime for sure.
Yeah, and I think if we wanted to get like I don't know. No, not tangential, but tangentially practical with it. We could say that, okay, people who have this theory, right, keep having it and advance neuroscience to a point where it's undeniable. Where we are now, I can still plausibly say I have free will. So now it's your job to change my mind. And the beauty of that is, for all practical reasons, we can just keep, as much as we, have an intuition that the opposite may be true, our job is just to keep going in the way that we've been going.
And I feel like even if it was proven that the automaton theory is right and that we don't have consciousness, I feel like people would still act as if we have free will. Like,
yeah, just because of the way we've functioned to get up here.
That's the way like humans work. If we've had that intuition for our evolutionary purposes, then we'll have that intuition.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Oh,
well,
that's all she wrote. That's all she wrote, folks.
That's all he wrote. William James, thank you.
Now we get to Gettier.
Now we get to Gettier problems.
Gettier. So, okay. Recapitulation of Plato's justified true belief, or GTB for the more, for the more intimate acquaintances, such as us. Justified. So, okay, for something to qualify as knowledge, it has to...
I wrote some, like, this is the first text I'm in Word, and I write comments, and they're all just salty, like, sarcastic comments.
Okay, you want to take over?
You can explain justified true belief.
Okay, so for something to qualify as knowledge, it has to be justified. I guess that's not a good order to do it in, but it flows off.
I think it's belief.
Yeah, it's belief.
True justified.
True justified. So first of all, you have to believe it, in the sense that a part of you, whether it's conscious or not.
Let's not talk about that.
Okay,
just like you believe it.
Okay. So this may be shown by you saying, I believe that John has a job.
Yeah.
Right? But it can also be
implicit.
Yeah, implicit, not subconscious. That's what I wanted to say. Then there is true, in the sense that it has, your belief that John has a job has to coincide with the truth. That's an interesting part we're going to get to. And it has to be justified, in the sense that you can't just wake up and not know a John and not know anything about jobs and say that.
Right.
You still have to have a friend named John who told you that he has a job, and you know that he's a believable character, so you believe justifiably that is true. And that's what
everyone thought before Gettier came around.
That's what everyone thought before Gettier came around and swept everyone off of their philosophical feet. I'm on the William James word diet, so I think I'm getting better. So you want to go?
That's 5 minutes before you look for sidewalk for 5 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you want to give one or two? The barn one is my favorite.
I think it's
Still,
the strongest one. Yeah.
is the strongest one because it's not. There's no ambiguity. You can just picture it. You can picture. Well, we'll say what it is, but
Yeah. But
like
just
the coin one. I didn't like the coin one.
what was the coin one?
My boss told me I've got a job. It's like the first one, the Smith.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, give that one in the barn.
Yeah, but first, in the introduction, they talk about epistemology is the field of knowledge, and these scientists, epistemologists, are the one that study this Gettier problem and everything. And I don't know if like everyone's trying to sell what they're writing, and like there's an introduction, and he says, or I don't know who wrote this. Hence, it is philosophically important to ask what more fully such knowledge is. If we do not fully understand what it is, will we not fully understand ourselves either? No.
No,
That's literally what I wrote.
We've been okay for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
since Plato.
We're fine. So yeah, belief, truth, justification, and that intuitively qualifies as knowledge. The original Gettier problem is as follows. The case's protagonist is Smith. Smith and Jones have applied for a particular job, but Smith has been told by the company president that Jones will win the job. Smith combines that testimony with his observational evidence of there being 10 coins in Jones' pocket. He has counted them himself, an odd but imaginable circumstance. And he proceeds to infer that whoever will get the job has 10 coins in their pocket. Notice that Smith is therefore not there by guessing. On the contrary, his belief be that Jones will get the job enjoys a reasonable amount of justificatory.
No, it's not that Jones would have a job. It's that a person with 10 coins.
Yeah, specifically that a person with 10 coins in their pocket will get the job. Yeah, that's a very important distinction. There is the company president's testimony. There's Smith's observation of the coins in Jones' pocket. And there's Smith's proceeding to infer belief be carefully and sensibly from that other evidence. It's justified, and it's and he believes it.
Sorry.
As it happens too, belief B is true, although not in the way in which Smith was expecting it to be true. For it is Smith who will get the job, and Smith himself has 10 coins in his pocket. These two facts combine to make his belief be true. Nevertheless, neither of these facts is something that on its own was known by Smith, right? So he didn't know he was going to get the job, and then he has 10 coins in his pockets. Is his belief B therefore not knowledge?
All right. Do you want to just... So I'm a big fan of thought experiments, right? But this is where you get into philosophical mumbo jumbo, where you're writing things to serve your purpose so much that it becomes unbelievable.
Yeah,
so for the sake of this, do you want to reenact this thing? I'm Smith, you're Jones. You want to reenact the whole thing just so we show?
I'm Jones, okay, but then I don't have anything to do.
Well, yeah, a little bit. So okay, of course I took the main role. My grandma will be proud. Okay, so okay, scene 1, lunchroom. Hey Jones, what you eating there?
A sandwich.
That's nice. Hey, I see a bulge in your pockets. Can I see that?
I'm just happy to see you.
Well, that's nice. Can you put that on the table right there? Okay. May I count those?
Of course.
That's coins, right?
Yeah.
Minted?
Yeah.
Well, gosh darn it. That must be 10 coins. Here you go. Yeah, put them back right in your pocket. Okay. Scene 2, boss interview. Can you be the boss?
Yeah.
Hey, boss.
Hello, Smith. Jones is gonna get the job later.
Okay, that sounds inappropriate. Like I'm getting insider information, but that's fine. Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too, sir. Scene 3.
Formation of belief.
Deliberation. Well, let me put these 10 coins in my pocket and not associated with my prior belief that...
No, you don't know the coins are in your pocket.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Oh, that's even... I mean, that's where... No, I thought he was unaware of the link.
No.
Okay.
So sleepwalk and put coins in your pocket so that you don't know.
Okay. Scene 3, sleepwalking. Scene 4, formation of belief. Well, flipper doodle doo. I think Jones is going to get the job on this one. And I think, in fact, that a person with 10 coins in their pocket, which can't be me, is going to get... Right, I think I'm done now. I mean, this is the thing. This is the problem. So, but on the other hand, the barn thing is pretty cool. I think it's my favorite. At the very least, if you were to accept the Gettier problems, have something.
Okay, look, scene 1. Gosh darn, let me install fake barns and then one true barn among them.
No, but like, there are weird things in the world, right? You are on a road trip, right? You're going by a village, the village, right? The destination if you want to see fake barn fronts. And there are fake barn fronts upon fake barn fronts. But
You don't know that.
You don't know that because you're on a road trip. You didn't research your thing. Fake barn front city. And you're passing by a barn and
FBFC.
you see, yeah, and you see the fake barn. Well, you see a real barn front with a real barn in it. And you assume that it's a barn. And that's a justified true belief in the sense that, well, it's justified because you're seeing a barn front and you're assuming a barn is behind it. It's true in the sense that it's the only barn of this city in FBFC. And it's, you believe it because, well, it's been justified by you, so you believe it. But that's not knowledge. So essentially, one big part of those, go.
Can we? Okay, look, the case of Smith and Jones, whatever. Let's say it happens. I agree. Like, it's not. You don't have. That wasn't knowledge. Because do you agree that it wasn't knowledge?
It's honestly too vague for me to even consider. Like, that's the thing. That's why I brought up the bit that we did, because I don't think anyone would even spend their time forming the specific belief that the person who
has 10 coins in their pocket
will get the job. I don't see it. I can't visualize
that's
it.
my well, I mean, you can imagine someone thinking that, and I guess technically it's not. That's my problem with like most of these also. It's just it always generalizes. Like your belief is not Jones will get the job. Then it's like, okay, it's not knowledge. You're wrong. That's it. And that's the first one. And then I think I can quickly go through some of these.
Okay, but
there's another one. Okay, there's another one that I won't get into it. That's the lucky disjunction, where it's like 3 statements with or statements. One of them is true, but not in the way you expect.
For a logician, that's a fun one. It's okay.
Sure, dude, but who, as you said, like, it's vague. Who makes these beliefs?
I
believe
I agree.
either this or this or this. By the way, the or is disjunctive.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, in the way we normally use it, it is.
Yeah, I know, but like,
okay, what I wanted to say is just, okay, but when you get to the barn one, what's your problem with that? Because when you pass by a village of barns and you look at the third barn and you actually take time to appreciate it and you're like, oh, this is a barn, I may go inside it. Like, right. It's a visualizable situation.
Yeah. And just last one I'm going to mention, I guess, I want to talk about the other one too. So there's the sheep in the field, so that you look in a field and you see what you think is a sheep. And there's a hill behind the sheep that you see. And behind the hill is a sheep. But it actually, well, you form the belief, look, there's a sheep in the field. And what you're actually seeing is a dog disguised as a sheep. So your belief is true because there is a sheep behind the hill. It's justified because you're seeing what you think is a sheep. And it's a belief because you believe it.
Yeah,
it's a belief because you believe it.
It's too hard to get down.
But it's not knowledge because... Wait. yeah, I guess it's not knowledge because it's not the
You
right
were-
information that
yeah.
you're using, something like that. But again, it's too
You
vague.
weren't right about the right thing.
Yeah,
Something like
exactly.
that, something like that.
What I want to keep saying is just like what I am looking at is a sheep, and then it's not true, and then it's simple, right? You don't say there is a sheep in the field. You say, look, what I am looking at here is a sheep, and then you're wrong, and it's not knowledge.
It's like with Kant cases. The more specific you get, the more you can justify. It's like, okay, can I generalize this to be to live in a world of liars? No. So lying must be immoral. Okay, but would you lie to save a friend's life? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Do you want to live in a world where such a thing is common? Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the only thing. So now it's just about, okay, how far did that person go in their considerations? I mean, did they say to themselves, this is a barn and I may or may not like walk in it? Or did they pass by the barn and they were like, barn? I mean, that kind of is congruent with even a barn front. That's fine. You know, you see, like, in the sense
specificity of the belief you form.
yeah, when you actually get to it in real life, and it's not like we're nitpicky, right? When you actually get to it in real life, the reason you wouldn't just like encounter Gettier cases left and right on the side of the road is that they're just too implausible, and if when they do happen, you're always just gonna come to the conclusion that the person was wrong. I'd say, in the sense that was a dog, that wasn't a sheep. That was a that was a barn. Here's the difference, though, right?
No, but the belief, yeah, the barn one is the most. I think it's the best one because there is a sheep in the field is like a crazy wide statement that like you're right accidentally and that's whatever. But the barn one I think is special because it's specific.
I don't know where I read this one. Maybe it was in the introduction of this or in another text, but it was recent, so it's bizarre, but it was like the sheep one, but a better version, and it's just slightly modified. So a shepherd asks his, I don't know, helper to go get the cow in the field, and he points somewhere. And the shepherd the helper goes to the field, and what the farmer actually pointed was a black and white garbage bag hanging from a tree, and that looked like a cow. But then he turns around and he actually sees a cow a little bit further on, and then he goes and gets the cow.
Okay.
So it's like, I mean, at the very least, we've made it practical, right? In the sense that the helper can say, "Look, you were wrong. That wasn't the cow, but I found the cow, and it just coincidentally was in the same field, you know, and pretty much where you pointed."
Yeah. So the article characterizes these Gettier cases by two attributes. So first of all, there's fallibility, so that the justification you use to come to your knowledge is fallible. So there's always a problem in your justification, right? So the justification, if we stay on the barn, is I see a barn front, therefore I am seeing a barn. That's not necessarily true because it could be a fake barn front. FB, FC. Then there's luck. Luck is present in all of them, and that's what makes them like implausible and why we're in whatever attitude about it, I guess, is that FBFC doesn't exist in the real world. Like no one, like it's very unlikely that you'll find a situation where a Gettier problem manifests itself.
It'd be cool to do like a philosopher resort. Like you buy a whole city and just like do the Gettier case.
Yeah, resort makes more sense. I thought you were gonna say like experiment, just like social psych, you know, installing fake barns for absolutely no reason.
No, I'm thinking purely about profit. You just like the Gettier town. Look at all these barn fronts. And there's a bunch of other cases, like there's cows, garbage bags, black and white,
trees, etc.
etc. Fields, things appearing on the same line as the farmer points, but it's not the thing. So I need practical.
Yeah, so here's one conclusion. Like, yes, technically this is right. my conclusion is we can't have knowledge. Whatever.
Well, that's
Like we can't really have knowledge, because there's this other example where
But well, are you saying that JTB doesn't equate to knowledge based on this? Is that what you mean? What do you mean by knowledge? No, but like actually,
yeah, I think I agree with JTB that is what knowledge is,
okay.
and I think we can't have any knowledge. And you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Is that? I mean, which part of JTB would you disagree with? Because if I were to argue for your point, it would be T.
True.
Yeah, in the sense that, like, do you ever know if anything's true?
It's about the specificity of the truth. I think this last example that they mentioned in the text is interesting too. So, like, there's this pyromaniac that wants to light a match, and these matches are really reliable, and in the past they've always lit up, and so he knows that when he strikes the match, it will light. And he strikes the match, and it does light. The problem is,
I hate that.
The problem is there was a defect in the match, and it wouldn't have lit up if it wasn't for some radiation that went through it right at the exact moment, and it still lit up, but not because of what you thought it lights up because of.
Like,
So-
if you replace the radiation thing with some alien was overlooking Earth and thought it would be fun to shoot a laser in that spot, it still works. That's the thing. But whatever,
But
whatever.
my thing is, look, I think we're all operating on some reasonable level of justification, but we never know. Let's say in the same situation, I'm striking matches, and if they've always lit up, I have the right strategy, they've always lit up. Let's say I take out a match and I know it's going to light up, and I strike it and it doesn't. Well, I guess the problem is just with the justification, right? It's like Hume. It's always happened in the past, but we don't really know that it's going to happen in the future. If we have limited information, and maybe we always do, we can't have knowledge.
Yeah, I think everything is cause and effect, but I think it's much more complex than we can perceive, and we can only perceive a very limited amount of stimuli at the time,
Mm-hmm.
at one time. So I think whenever we make a decision or use knowledge to act upon the world, or in a certain way, we are just kind of getting away with it, right? We're playing the statistics. Like, you might think, okay, I brought $5 to the gas station, and I will hand it to the person to buy gum, and I don't have any reason to doubt that when I go out from my house with $5, I won't be coming back with a gum. But 100 things could happen, right? Could be out of gum. You could, the place could get robbed at the same time.
An alien could shoot a laser.
The store could be closed. And every time you're doing the most trivial of decisions, like going to buy a gum, when you have that gum, you just got away with your lack of consideration for the reality of the world and the complexities of it, right?
Yeah.
Every time you're just getting away with it.
Yeah.
And I guess, these are situations where, I don't even want to say, I guess you're not getting away with it. In the sense that it's one of those cases where that one thing that you never thought would have happened does happen. And again, it's by such luck that it's implausible. And yeah, we're statistical beings. We're not 100% beings.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, you're saying you have the same view I have then.
Well, yeah, in the sense that, yeah, if you claim everything is absolute, then whoops. And but there are some things that are so beyond statistical doubt, like the sun rising up next morning, that it's just not useful. Like, if we want to talk about practicality, it's just not useful to even consider it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think that's my view. Justified true belief is knowledge, and we can't have knowledge. It's just, that's pretty much what you're saying. But some things are just so sure that it really doesn't matter. And maybe this is like the pattern. Maybe the pattern in philosophy is we look for an ethical system that solves all the problems. There isn't one. We look for what knowledge is. There's not a definition. It's all things we make up, right? It's all things that we follow our intuition somewhat, and we're just going along with the flow, doing the best we can. And you know what? Most of the time it works. So, well, apart from many, many ethical problems in history, but that I guess the point is not that it works. I guess the point is that things are going to be the way they are, and we're going to try to solve problems the best we can. And I'm starting to understand the hate for analytical philosophy, because in the end, it's just like,
right, is a hot dog a sandwich? That's for next episode. So
it's just a way to divide the country.
They found another way. Okay. Thinkin Bros our copyrighted rating number on 3?
1,
2, 3, 8.5. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Thanks a lot for listening. Well, actually, nothing more, right? Thanks a lot for listening. Well, I hope to find something more intellectually engaging or fun engaging for next week. More so. This was too philosophical. Or as our child psychology prof would say, philosophical. Thanks a lot for listening. Go to thinkinbros.com for more information, or contact us at thinkingbros@gmail.com. We might answer your email, or we might not. It's reverse psychology. I read about it. We'll see you next week. I was Chris.
Alex, thank you.